Does the board ever say no to you, Jim?
I can't remember when they have, no. In fact, I've often talked to my artistic director colleagues, because I too go to a lot of festivals as a player, and I talk, and they tell stories about their board, and the big thing we often said is, I have a board of wannabe artistic directors, which is, and so they're spending half their time thinking up programs and the other half just trying to put out fires from the board. And often after talking to my colleagues there, I sometimes do actually send a fan mail to our board and thanking them for just support. And for 25 years, I must say that they've just given total support, and I can't imagine a better board. I've been courted by other organizations over the years to do things that I couldn't possibly do, like be deans at schools of music and things like that. And I'm a dean. I'm a clarinet player. But when I start thinking about the relationship I have here, both with Margaret and the board, I think, well, why would one want to change that? Because one here has an artist's dream, has artistic freedom, and you cannot possibly. No one can give you enough money to compensate for that. If you lose, the freedom, artistic freedom, is probably the most valuable thing that any artist can have. And if you have a position where you have that, then that's something very, very worth having and very, very valuable. And our board gives, actually both of us, that feeling, I think.
So, Margie, with no real vice presidents, and I use the word facetiously, but little support in the office, what is the role of volunteers at the Festival of the Sound?
The role is absolutely critical. It does keep us going. I think last fall, when we met for the first time as a new board, because our board renews itself, they can serve 2 3-year terms, and then they have to take at least a year away from the board. So we're constantly seeking new members, and each fall there is a certain amount of renewal on the board. So when I was welcoming them, I said, one of the worst and most frustrating thing about this job is you're just never alone. Like, there's always somebody that needs something and talking to you. The very best thing about this job is that you're never alone. And I really have felt that way. And we've had some serious challenges over the years, financial, personnel, just organizational. And each time, the level of support that was there for Jim and for me was absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And so it's that never being alone. Beyond the board, then, there's a lot of other volunteers who do take on a huge variety of tasks, and many of them you see here almost every night in the gift shop, ushers. There's been people going up and down the main street now collecting back all the gift baskets that are out there for our downtown draw, that kind of thing. And so even beyond the people who actually volunteer here are the people in the stores and places like that who do their own part to help promote the festival.
And I give our old high school Jim credit for helping develop that spirit, because it was always such a challenge to put on concerts there, and even to be there, even to sit in it was a challenge, and you had to be pretty tough to survive, and you also had to be a bit crazy about music and crazy about the idea, so the festival tended to attract these fanatic people to work with it, and I think that's continued now that we're in this comfortable space. I think had we started in this space, it would be a very different festival.
I think so, yes. I remember the old festival where the halls were decorated and made to look at least bit like the school that you could imagine, school entrance hall there, and you even had a cafe outside the high school for a year or two. Now, apart from the Stocky Centre, which is a major achievement of the festival, what are the big achievements that have happened during the 20 years, Margaret, that you've been at the Festival of the Sound?
I would say for me the big achievements are the small achievements. Just things that work really well, a project maybe that we take on and people work well together, everybody feels pleased with themselves and the festival grows a little more. A concert that people come out of smiling and so on. I don't think we need big achievements.
Well, I think we had one this afternoon with the planets. I mean, if you see those wonderful paintings that the students did, and the marvelous performance of the York 2, and that connection, I think that's incredible. When you think the depth of that, here you have the planets, probably a North American premiere of that version, played by the guy who found it in his office, who's standing back there, by the way. And then you have Parry Sound children painting these marvelous paintings of that. I mean, we just had one a few hours ago. Hopefully we'll have another great achievement in a few hours. But each one kind of, I agree totally with Margaret. It's each one. And I suppose every time someone comes up to us and says, boy, this is the first time at the festival and we're certainly coming back next year, then we feel that's a big achievement too. You know, one person, two people at a time. That's how we've lasted 30 years.
Margie, there's another major achievement coming up after intermission this evening. This is the Mozart Gran Partita, which is done as a special event for the festival, isn't it?
It is. It's something Jim's talked about doing for quite a few years. I think maybe he did it a very long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
And I've sometimes said, well, that's just a threat, bringing 13 wind players instead of, you know, it went from 5 to 8. And then he started threatening 13.
We'll have a concert band next.
And each year at budget time, when we're struggling with that Excel spreadsheet to make as much happen as we hope, Jim would say, well, I guess there goes my great potato again. We probably have to cut that out. So last fall, when we came to that point, he said that's what he really wanted to do on his 25th season. It seemed like it became the obvious thing to cut again. I said, no, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. And I didn't really think of the other idea for the fundraiser until closer to brochure time, and we were thinking, and still struggling with the sort of overall budget of the festival and how we were going to manage it. So I thought about Salieri saying about Mozart that he wrote way too many notes, and I thought, well, there has to be some way to make that into something good. So we came up with this idea, again, mentioned it to a couple of our board and committee members. They thought it sounded good. We came up with this idea of a note-by-note campaign where, in addition to the people giving large donations or coming to an anniversary dinner that supported the festival in a larger way, that virtually everyone can do a $25 note in the Gran Partita. And it has caught on amazingly well. I imagine most of you will be here tonight, but we had established a budget of $15,000 that we hope to raise in this way, and just in the last day we've done that, so we're very pleased.
Bravo. Now, that means that the money's been raised for 5 of the 6 movements. So during intermission tonight, there's still chance. I jest. Now, an interesting question though, if the festival was given a gift of $50,000, how do you think it would be spent? And I'll start with Jim first, from an artistic side.
Well, the first thing I would think of is how can it be used so that 5 years from now we're still healthy and that we can make programs. And I would think, okay, how can that be used to make sure we have audiences 10, 15 years from now? And then I would try to put those two things together, and it would probably, one of the ways it would find its way to music scores, some of it, and some of it would also find its way to special projects with during the festival, and maybe I'd do another Gran Partita.
Commission one. And Margaret, what do you think?
Music scores all the way.
Music scores, maybe just explain what
Music
that
scores
scheme
is our school music program, and it takes place spring and fall each year with children in grades 4 to 6 in the West Parry Sound School District. There are actually 13 schools involved in it now. There's 2 First Nations schools and schools in very small towns where the total school population is less than 100. Jim had a really good idea in introducing this into a community or a region like ours, in that the musicians come for a week, much like they do for the festival. And during that week, we make visits to 11 schools. Some of them consolidate and bring the children together for about 700 children in grades 4 to 6. And they visit each of these schools individually so that the children get to know the musicians before we bring them to the concert hall. So that takes 3 very full days, lots of travel, sometimes over winter roads and so on. And then on the 4th day, we bring all 700 children to the center. We do the concert twice, and it's better than opening night any day. You just can't imagine the excitement in the room when these children are here, some of them for the first time. But over the 3 years that they're in those grades, they get 6 concert experiences. So it's not an inexpensive program to do, because we don't just bring in a concert and send them off the next day. They stay for the week. There are lots of expenses around it, but it, I think, has been one of the most rewarding things we've ever done.
I've done 3 of these now, 3 of the 2. I go myself around, and I've done 3 of these circuits. And the last one I did was with Zap, the crazy Dutch string quartet, and of course the kids loved them. And they'd never been to Canada in winter. And they loved it. They thought it was great. But one of them said, "Wow, this is great. This is hardcore Canada."
Is there anything, you look into the future there and building an audience for the future, but is there anything you miss from the past? Anything you miss from the Jim?
Well, we used to be able to tell this wonderful joke when the festival winds went around, because 4 of us were called Jim. Oh. Thank you.
Maybe Mary Lou would like to join us up here.
Well, yeah, I kind of miss that. That's another reason we're all tough. And that train was a really easy way to see if artists would connect with us or not, depending how they would respond to that.
Well, we've been recording this conversation during the 30th anniversary of the Festival of the Sound here in Parry Sound. Artistic Director James Campbell is celebrating his 25th anniversary as Artistic Director, and something like 1,500 concerts. And Margaret Boyd is celebrating her 20th anniversary as Executive Director. I think we all need a little of this. This being a special wine produced to mark the 30th anniversary of the Festival of the Sound. So I think I'm going to sign off from this conversation now, thanking Margie and thanking Jim. I won't say your last name. Thanking Jim for sharing their thoughts with us and drinking a toast to the Festival of the Sound.